Digitizing your classroom library. Step 6. Tie in all data. Let's begin by getting the link to checkout check-in form.
All right, welcome back. Now it's time for us to go ahead and tie in the link to our check-in and checkout form to our basic informations page. The reason that we're doing this, putting it into this column, is because once we have our front end, we're going to tell the front end where to go for students to be able to check out a specific book. Now, remember, earlier we talked about doing it per bookshelf. So right now we only have one bookshelf, but when you do more than one bookshelf, you're going to need to know where that check-in and checkout form is. So to do this, you're simply going to click on that send button. Then you're going to come to what I like to call the paperclip. Check that. And now this next part is a little more important. It's like one of those details that you really have to pay attention to. If you use the long link, you may not run into this issue because it's always going to end in that link at the end. But sometimes people like to put shorten URL, which for what we're going to do, you don't have to shorten it. But if you do, there's something that you have to pay very close attention to. So in this URL, you'll see that it ends in the number 56. So when we go to copy it and we go to our spreadsheet, we paste it in, paste. And what I want you to do is pay attention to those numbers at the end. I know I told you guys about the shortcut where you can come here and double click and then it'll fill it all in. But if you pay attention to these numbers, you see that it fills in the numbers in sequential order all the way down, which is an issue because this is these characters are unique to that form. So you need it to say 56 in all of it. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and undo that. If you want to copy it, then you're going to select all of the cells by highlighting the cells all the way down. And by doing this, when we paste it in, paste, then it keeps that same unique value all the way down. So now this is how we're going to create that link to the check-in and checkout form.
It is time to calculate your on-hand quantity.
All right, thanks for sticking around this long, guys. Now, we're coming to a part where we want to calculate our on-hand quantity. Now, to do so, before I tell you guys the formula, I'm going to walk you through what we are doing with this formula. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to tell this spreadsheet, hey, this is our inventory. This is how many books we should have on the shelf. And what we're going to do is we are going to subtract that total amount from the difference of how many books have been checked out under that title versus how many have been checked in under that title. So, for example, if you have this book checked out 100 times and turned in 99 times, that means that there's still one book out there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that one and we're going to subtract it from our inventory, which means that we should have still 3 books on the shelf using this example. So this is important because once we get down to a quantity, on-hand quantity of 0, we want that available title, so the actual title of that book, to come off of your checkout and check-in form. And we do that putting the formula in here. If you remember, we talked about creating a formula in this available title where it will say if this on-hand quantity is 0, then don't return the available title. But if it is greater than 0, then it's going to return the title of that book. So let's get to it. So to do this, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to push enter. Remember, inventory, what we have on hand, we're going to subtract that from the difference of our checked out versus checked in. So to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to use the formula count if, open parentheses. And the first question it asks us is what range do we want to count? So remember, the first range that you want to count is your checked out. So you're going to come here to this tab that you have titled your bookshelf from. And you're going to look for where it says which books are you checking out. So you click that whole row. Make sure that it says C:C because you want it to do all of them. Anytime something is checked out, it will fall under this column. So after you have that, you're going to push comma. And it's asking you, hey, what criteria am I looking for that range? And if you guys remember from the last time that we did this, you're going to come here to basic information. You're going to go across that row and you're going to pick the title in that row, which should be the first one. Then we're going to close parentheses. Now, this is going to give us that number of times that this book has been checked out. And we want to subtract that from the number of times that it has been checked back in. So to do that, we're going to use that same formula, count if, and I know I got a lot of geniuses out there that know what we're going to do next. And you are correct. We're going to come back here to our rack 1 and we're going to look for the column that has our turn in quantity. And it's going to ask us, after we push that comma behind it, what is our criteria? And we already know that the title of that book is located in cell A2. So you're going to push A2. Then you're going to close parentheses twice and push enter. Now you're going to see that it put another parentheses. That was my mistake. I should have put one more parentheses in there. And once you push enter, then when you go back over, what you're going to see is that on-hand quantity. Now, currently there are no books out. So 0 minus 0 is going to be, of course, 0. And if you take a look at this right-hand side, you're going to now see that there are available titles for that book. So now let's go here to the trick that I showed you guys before and bring the cross up, double click, and it will populate all of our on-hand quantities. And at the same time, it will populate all of our available titles. Now that we have our available titles, I want to show you guys something before we go into the last portion of this video, because the last portion is going to be us doing who checked this text out last. I want to show you guys how to, and you really don't need to do this, but I want to show you this so that you see it. Now, if you remember in the previous video, when we created that first question, which book are you checking out? We kind of left that open using Form Ranger. So now that this column with all the available titles are there, now in Form Ranger, that question will populate with all of those titles. And let me show you how. So you want to come here to Tools, you want to Manage Form, and you want to go to the Edit Form. Once you're there, you're going to see inside of your checked out books that all of your titles are there. We didn't have that before. So if yours doesn't show up, I'm going to show you how to make them all appear. You're going to click this add on. You're going to go to Form Ranger. You're going to go to Start. Once you go there, you're going to give it time to load. It takes a few seconds to load it. And what you want to do, it has your question list. You're going to select that question. Which book are you checking out? You're going to see a little icon here because this is the only one on the form that we created this for. And you're going to click that drop down. Now it should already be checked for populate from range. You don't want to touch any of this stuff. What you do want to check is this update question list. Now, once you click on that update question list, you should only have to do this once, because anytime a student checks out or checks in any books, it will go back in and it will repopulate this column. So once it brings it to 0, if Brian's Winter has been checked out and you don't have any more on the shelf, it will take this title off of the list. So that once you do that, you will see that all of the titles for your checkout books have been populated. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the final portion of it, which is how to identify the last person who checked it out.
Let us see how to identify who checked out books last.
All right, welcome back. Hey, this is the final step in this process, right before we get into the fun part of creating that front end for the students to use to check this out. So one of the things that I like to do when I create this is I like to know who the last student was that checked out the book. Now, there is a way for us to pull up everybody that's checked out the books, but sometimes I just want to know who the last person was. Now, is this part of the process necessary? No, we don't really need it, but I just like to do it in case like I have students looking in and they want to check it out and they see that it's all checked out and they want to go to the last person that may have checked it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how to return the last person that checked out the book using a formula that is called X lookup. Now, when doing X lookup, it's going to ask you a couple of things. What is your search key? So we are actually using the title of the book as our search key. So we know the title is in A2 from the previous steps that we've done. So if you scroll all the way over, you're going to see A2 is that title. So next thing that it's going to ask us is, hey, where will this title be located? So you're going to go back to the tab that has our entries in it, and you're going to find out which books are you checking out, and you're going to select that whole column. So once you've done that, you're going to push comma. The next thing that it's saying is, hey, once I identify that title, where is the results that you want to pull from? So what we want to see is who was the last person that checked it out. And we know that because this is the person's first and last name. So you're going to select that column. Then you're going to push comma. So the next question that it's asking you is, what do I do if there's no value there? You actually want it to return a blank space. So we're going to push open quotations, close quotations, and then a comma. So that way, if we don't have anything like we do now, it's going to come back blank instead of showing an error. Now, the next question that it's asking you is, what is your match mode? Now, this is important if you want to know the exact, like your titles are matching exactly, because there are going to be some titles that are close to one another, and you may want that. But in this situation, you want the exact title name. So in this situation, what you're going to do is you're going to push 0. 0 means I want an exact match of that title. Once you push 0, you're going to push comma. And the last thing that we're going to focus on is our search mode. So search mode just says, hey, do you want to return the first value, the second value, the last? To make it simple, we want the last person to check it out. And so what you're going to push is -1. And that's going to return the very last value of the search. So with that being said, now we have, you push enter, now we have a group that can be searched for that last name. Now, when you look at this, you're going to see that there's nothing in this box. So what I like to do is I like to test my stuff out in these situations. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy this title, copy, and I'm going to go over to where those entries are going to be a few times. I'm going to paste it in. Control V is paste, and let's drag it down like 3 times, right? And let's come over here. I'm going to put student 1, student 2, and student 3. Now, in the comments, I want you guys to put down why you think I put student 1, 2, and 3 in there. And I'm going to show you why here. When I come back to basic information, so I have 3 different students that checked out that same book. I want to know who the last one was. Student number 3 shows up. So this lets me know that it is showing the last student. And it allows me to also see that on-hand quantity is correct. So if 3 students check that out, then my on-hand quantity should still be 1. So let's try some other stuff, right? So let's say some other books get checked out. I'm going to come here to A Christmas Carol. I'm going to copy this, right? How many copies of that do I have? I got 19 copies. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to put that in there a few times. Control V is a paste, and I'm going to drag that down. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 5 of them over here. And then I'm going to come back up here to this title, copy it. I'm going to check it out one more time, paste. And the last person that's going to check it out is, yep, you guessed it, student 4. Enter. Now, according to this, there should be 5 of these gone from the overall total. 19 minus 5 should be 14. That should be correct math if I did it right. And then that means that we should have 0 on hand for here. but the last person that checked it out should be student 4. So let's take a look. Did we do it right? Scrolling over, 14 for that one, and student 4 was the last one with no on-hand quantities. So that means that our formula works correctly. So now, and as you see over here, that available title has disappeared, right? So now let's go ahead and double click here. Now you see that there's nothing there, but you want to always make sure that you scroll through and make sure it went all the way through, because you don't want it to mess up and not be in there. And this is how you get that last person that checked out that book. So now this concludes the basic information portion of it. And now what we can do is the fun part. We're going to move on to the last part of creating your check out and check in system digitally. We're going to move into Looker Studio to create a front end for your students to check it out. Thanks for sticking with me for this long, guys. We are just about done, and we are keeping it simple.
Thank you for watching. Click here for the final step.